He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute! Attention, citizens of Fair Gotham. Welcome to Bat Minute of the Phantasm, the show that always sounds like it wants to jump off a cliff. Or is that just me? Maybe it's just me. Hopefully not you, listeners. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
And you know who I am, but if your mother's asking, I'm Niall McGowan.
Oh, we know the real Niall all too well around these parts. But we are joined by two other retrobates, once again. Joining us for the second time this week, it is Rob O'Connor and Austin Pryor.
So far.
Hey, I don't know why I went American, but there you go.
That's the Rob O'Connor Show. And here is your host, Austin Pryor.
Oh, now you've got to do a podcast called The Rob O'Connor Show, hosted by Austin. Come on. Absolutely.
That used to always really confuse me when the Larry Sanders Show was on, and at the end you see because I always thought it was going to be like, it's like Seinfeld. His name is Jerry Seinfeld, so yeah, that's and then you see the Larry Sanders Show, and at the end it's like starring Gary Shandling. I was like,
yeah, what?
What's happening here? It really blew. This was when I was like 10, so I was just like, what? Like, he's playing a different guy? Like, what's happening here?
Layers.
I'm officially young enough that I was introduced to Gary Shandling in Iron Man 2. I never knew who he was prior to that.
What?
Don't you worry. I don't think I did either. I've never seen that show. I might have seen him in bit parts.
He's in.
maybe.
Bill is watching him in Freaks and Geeks that time as well, when he's having the cheese melt or whatever you call it.
I saw that once because Niall gave me it, and it was good, but I've never seen it again.
Watching.
We are here to talk about Minute 11. The minute starts with a smug little turd, and it ends with a villain making himself heard.
Lovely.
Oh man, you have no time. You must be like, I can't wait until this asshole turns into Batman so I can stop talking about young Bruce Wayne.
Well, he is smug little turd Bruce Wayne. He approaches Andrea, as she's getting ready to leave the graveyard. And, she introduces herself to him. Despite me calling him out all the time, she is obviously intrigued. So at least he's not being
it's not unwanted
too pushy. She's obviously got a kind of okay.
Well, I think she did, from the moment she saw him. Was just like, oh, it's Bruce Wayne. Again, she saw him around campus and thought he was cute. So now's her opportunity to
that's
pounce.
the thing. And now she knows, now he's revealed himself. She reveals, she knows who he is. That's not a thing. And I get the vibe that she doesn't strike me as somebody who is particularly interested in his money either. So that's a plus point. She's got her own money, and morally, she's just like, whatever, I don't care about that.
Yeah. There's a little bit of, I can imagine Michael Keaton kind of fumbling over himself a bit more in this scene, because the reason he came back to Andrea is because he's like, I heard my name. And then he's just like, Bruce Wayne. She's like, yeah, I know. It's like, you know that I know. But I can imagine Keaton doing that line would be a real yeah. It'd be kind of having this little flustered.
It'd be even more fumbling. Jesus.
Yeah. But that was his way.
You know how normal people eats breakfast and kisses somebody goodbye.
I didn't know where you were going with that for a second.
Well, that's the thing, though. The money thing could have crossed her mind because she knows who he is. But I like that it clearly didn't. I trust her. I trust her to a point.
Well, I think the implication, though, is that she comes from money as well. And they kind of, they're on an even keel. Or at least at this stage, it seems like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. We could go back to that Titanic thing we talked about last minute. And you could write it as, she comes from money, but maybe her family are, losing a bit of their wealth.
She sees it as a cage.
Exactly.
She's been led there in chains.
I was thinking different, but okay, I like that. You could see it that way. Or I was thinking, like maybe the family are trying to get her to hook up with someone rich, that kind of a thing. Yeah. But I like that that's not part of it at all. Never plays anything.
No. I do get you. Andrea really does have, despite, the sadness, obviously, of losing her mother, but we never know when the mother died. Yeah. It's never, I don't think they ever get into it. She does have a very carefree existence. Because she's just got this big swanky car and she's ready to, and she's just, the time we see her, she's just very witty and urbane and just has everything's going great for her. So, but I guess that's why she's so upset when her dad dies. I guess that's the big thing that happens to her. But yeah, that it's a little harder to judge, I guess, because it's animated. But I'm assuming we're supposed to recognize that this is a very swanky car she's got. As well.
Yeah, definitely. I've written down how cool the car is, and again, they're just really, leaning in hard to that 1940s aesthetic. They've clearly done their homework as to what a cool car would have looked like back then.
Yeah. It'll be something though. Later on at the World's Fair.
Oh yeah.
And Bruce sees the Batmobile. He saw this. It's like, oh. And then Andrea goes like, oh, you stole my car. Yeah, so just painted it black and put a fin on it. You think I don't recognize that Batmobile as a car I had when I was like 19 years old?
You know what? As a non-driver, if modern cars looked like this, I would drive. I would 100% learn to drive because they look cool. Cars now don't look cool.
No,
I always. Sorry, Austin.
No, if anybody brings out a car nowadays with a distinctive look, like we always go like, cars are so boring, they're so uniform, there's just 3 or 4 different shapes of car nowadays. And then when anybody brings out a car that's weird or has a different design element, we all go, I hate it. Look, it doesn't look like other cars. And we kill the variety. You know what I mean? Any company that like steps out of the norm is immediately punished.
It's true. It's true, sadly.
I'm hoping that there'll be a big renaissance for cool cars, because with kind of electric cars now being a big thing, that it'll be much easier to make the outside of a car just look as cool as you want. Because they're all the same on the inside, as opposed to when it's a motor car and you have to build all the crazy stuff.
Yeah, a different V8 engine or a different engine. Yeah, I mean... Yeah, I don't want to get into a whole electric car conversation because my mental path of where the conversation was going to go was like, well, I have a few paragraphs to say about this being an electric car driver, and I'm gonna leave that out.
It's like just been trying to avoid bringing up Quantum Leap around you the entire time.
I'll keep the EV talk for when I'm on a Jim O'Kane podcast.
Although I will always say, I always bring it up every time people mention cars. I was always a big fan of the Homer Simpson's car, the one he designed.
I genuinely like that.
You.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
You're supposed to think that one of monstrosities like, that looks cool. What's the problem with it?
Yeah. Again, if I could have that, I'd learn to drive tomorrow.
Yeah. If anyone heads to the Bat Minute Facebook group, by the time this goes out, I will have photoshopped Homer Simpson's car into the Gotham City World's Fair scene in this film.
Yeah. And me and Niall have to be sitting in it, right?
Absolutely.
We're just going when we see it. Here's a question, actually, and maybe because I'm terrible at it, so we might not get many answers if you guys are like me, but like picking someone up at a graveyard seems like a weird but impressive
it's a bold move.
No, that's what I was saying last minute. It's weird. It's creepy.
Well, that's what it's weird and creepy. It's more like it's a rare. It's very like when I was growing up watching things like Seinfeld and stuff. My vision of adult life was like, oh, you pick up people anywhere. Like there's an episode where Jerry's bragging about the fact that he picked up a woman in an elevator. He's like, George's like, you got like 20 seconds. He's like, I know, it was amazing, but I did it. And I was like, that's the way life is. And then I found out, like, once you get out, it's like, no, in the real world, people just want to be left alone when they're out and about.
I'm really surprised to hear you say that, because in the last minute we were talking about how, this is the Irish episode, we have 3 Irish guys on. Irish people love death. They love going to funerals. They love talking about who died. Like, I go to funerals all the time. You get picked up afterwards. It's just a thing we do.
So have you ever pulled off a funeral crasher?
No. Only in America people do that.
I don't know. I think it's that thing. It's meant to be like, well, because they're sad and they're thinking about mortality, they're craving closeness and love and things. Yeah. I'll be honest, you know, TMI maybe, but I mean, if I was in this situation, the last thing I wouldn't be feeling it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. No.
I mean, in this situation, though, because she's like, well, obviously the mother's died a long time ago, so she's just like, well, this is just where I go to.
Yeah, it's a bit different, yeah.
John,
Like,
once again, hot
Yeah.
vibes.
The thing is, I put this question to people, and I didn't get I was hoping like I'm going to get a load of like really good. I picked up someone at whatever kind of stories.
Oh, sorry, you meant picking up women. I meant getting picked up, like as in someone giving you a lift home. I didn't.
No. I mean, like
No,
actually,
I've never
like
picked someone up at a funeral. Jesus.
But I mean, like, not at a funeral, but like, where is like, have you ever been in a kind of situation where it's like, you know, an unusual, like, oh yes, I I got asked out when I was, you know, hanging upside down, like at at a rock climbing wall or something. Is there a weird place where you've been asked out where you're like, oh yeah, it was it's not the usual dating site kind of boring. Yeah, we met at a bar kind of stories.
See, I've never been asked out. I've always just accidentally ended up going out with someone.
Yeah, same here.
It's never like an arrangement of, oh, let's date.
Let's meet up. Yeah, that's not a thing in real life, I don't think. I've never experienced it.
The weird thing is, I put out this question to people, and I didn't get a lot of responses, but I got one person who I won't name because, like, the story was just like, what?
Oh God, where's this going?
But the one thing she did mention to me was she's like, because I mentioned the context of the question. It's like, well, Bruce Wayne kind of gets picked up at a grave site. And she's like, oh, is it a reference to Mary Shelley then? And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, Mary Shelley lost her virginity to Percy Shelley on her mother's grave.
Wait, what? I didn't know this. What the hell?
This is part of the Mary Shelley legend, is that and I was like, wow. So I went and Googled it. It's the way she phrased it was a bit cruder, but like, it's basically that back then Mary Shelley's mother died in childbirth. So she gave birth to Mary Shelley, and then Mary Shelley never knew her mother, but she would hang around the grave and like commune with her mother, like, and sit and talk to her mother, and she just liked hanging out. And so when she was dating, when she was dating Percy, she would take him to the grave, and apparently they lost. The historians have gone through the diaries and stuff, and it's like it seems as if she lost her virginity at her mother's graveside.
No, that's weird. I'm sorry.
I've heard it jump in someone's bones, but this is ridiculous.
But I was like, oh, maybe it was a little similar. But then the additional thing of what I was saying to this person was like, have you ever got picked up anywhere? Because this person's like, she's great fun, but she's like, and her life's been like mental basically. But she's like, no, never really picked up in any place weird. But I did sleep with my stepbrother the night I met him a couple of weeks before our parents got married.
Oh,
and I was like, okay.
Where you been spending your nights?
And that's all modern pornography.
I was just about to say.
She had sex. She had sex with a guy she had just met who was about to become her stepbrother.
But then I was like, oh, I guess it's okay then if they weren't married and like it was, you're not related by blood or anything like that. And she's like, yeah. Oh, we did hook up again after the marriage.
I mean, it's technically not wrong, but it's strange.
The thing is, I can imagine why you've moved continents now. It's just to stay away from all family meetups.
Oh my God. Rob, you mentioned though, I don't know why it made me think of this. You mentioned Irish people living death. And it made me think of a song. My favorite band are Public Image Limited, even though John Lydon, aka Johnny Rotten, is now a jerk. Yeah. I won't go there. But both of his parents are Irish, so he sees himself like that. Irish and English. But they have a song, Religion, which, I mean, it might be a bit blasphemous, some of it, so I won't read all of it. But there's a great bit where he says... do you pray to the Holy Ghost when you suck your host? Do you read who's dead in the Irish Post? Do you give away the cash you can't afford on bended knees and pray to the Lord? I was just like, it made me think of like old people just like, guess who died? Reading the Irish Post.
Love it.
So into it.
I don't know if you guys... Well, Niall, you probably know this. John Lydon is trying to be Ireland's entry for the Eurovision at the moment.
Apparently, he's failed.
Yes,
he failed.
They rejected him.
And I like the song. It's a nice song for his wife, But it's about their holiday in Hawaii. So you're like, okay, that's odd already. And I hate to say this because I like the song. I like him up until recent political things. I think it was a bad performance. I don't think it was good. I watched it. I was like, oh, John, that's not your best.
Yeah.
It's the only time I've ever, because I've seen him live multiple times, the only time I've ever seen him look sort of weak. He looked a bit scared,
Oh, maybe because it is like his attitude usually is I don't give a crap about anything, but this is the first time he's like I want to do this, I want to be Arnold's choice, so maybe having the actual pressure of wanting to please people.
Yeah,
he was out of sorts or something.
I love a guy. He's so astronomically out of touch anyway, and now he's written a song about going to Hawaii, a place that like maybe a dozen Irish people have ever been to. Like Spain is right there. Why would we anyway?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a good point. And I genuinely don't think he would see that as like an issue. He would just, because he's so removed from it now. Yeah.
But what are you better or worse choice than Dustin the Turkey, which is
I love that.
I'm a Dustin defender, baby.
Dustin.
You know what? As an English person, that was my introduction to Dustin.
Yeah.
And my introduction to Batman was Dustin the Turkey, because
that's what I was going to say. Like, if people don't know, Dustin the Turkey was like a character that appeared on The Den, which basically introduced children's cartoons in Ireland. But my main memory, the legacy of The Den to me, is that they had too much fun doing it.
Yeah.
And so the amount of times you'd be sitting, you tune in, it's like, all right, Batman's on at 4. And then at 10:04, they were still talking.
Like this podcast.
Yeah, but it was nightmarish. You'd be like, I just want to watch Angry Beavers. Would you stop talking? And they were just having too much fun, just nattering amongst themselves, having a great old time. It's like, I'm not here to see you assholes. I'm here to see friggin' the Incredible Hulk cartoon.
Niall, I gotta ask, what kind of busy lifestyle did you have as a kid that you couldn't just watch the whole Den? It's like I got like papers to deliver. What were you doing?
There's
like,
stuff to do.
I wanted to see I'm not here. I wasn't here to see them. I was here to see the cartoon. Man. So it's like there's always that stress of like, well, they just keep talking through it the whole thing, and they just go, oh wait, no, we can't show that now. It's time for Neighbors or something. You're like, no,
damn it.
No.
She says, this line I found a bit odd. She says, so tell me, with all that money and power, how come you always look like you want to jump off a cliff? And not only is that, oof, Jesus Christ, hold back. Yeah, but I thought like this Bruce Wayne, I don't get that vibe from this Bruce Wayne. This version, he's super good at putting on an act, the Playboy facade. So do you think maybe because she
sees through it?
She can see through it, exactly. She can see the wounded boy within.
I think he has his popped collar here, and I think that's supposed to imply that he's not as presentable as he should be, because he's in Michael Keaton mode here, where he doesn't know how to be a person, and he, maybe his hair is a bit unkempt, and he looks like he's been up all night, kind of thing. I think that's kind of what they're sort of implying there. And when she says jump off a cliff, I never really read it as, jump off a cliff and die. I read it more as like, oh well, Sylvester Stallone cliffhanger jumping off a cliff, that kind of way.
I never read it that way.
Why do you always look like you want to be in an action sequence?
It cuts to him with rope tied around his shoulder and like a pickaxe and stuff. Like what?
I mean, it could be that, but I got the vibe of like why do you always look like a miserable goth? Basically,
could be it. Yeah, it's like that Widow's Peak. That's carved. That's like, oh, he's going for a Bela Lugosi look. So he's like shaved his hair into a Widow's Peak. He's got the pop Dracula collar. He's like, just like hanging around.
Andrea, don't stop me from being a man,
Oh, great impression as well. And you know what? She does a power move. She plays it well, because he says, why should you care? And she just goes, I don't. That is a boss move.
But not only does she do I don't, but she leaves him hanging with the I don't, opens the car door, gets in, starts the engine, closes the car door. Mother was asking, drives off. A thing.
So I know you don't like it. You don't like the dialogue in these scenes. So that's a great ending line. There's a little joke of just like
that is like it. The whole scene I'm a bit iffy on. Last minute was the bad minute to me.
Okay.
This line is perfectly great. I love that line. That's fantastic. So like she she really takes control and shows that she's the boss. She's in control. She's in charge. Bruce, I don't care if you're a billionaire. Screw you. I'm still interested in you, but screw you. Well, screw you in multiple ways, I suppose.
I bet Joel Schumacher loves this movie, lads.
Yeah. But we've missed the earlier power move. It's a bit more subtle one that Bruce does, which is he introduces himself as Bruce Wayne, which he fully knows that he's, number one, just everybody knows him anyway, and he's mad famous. And then she has specifically said, that's Bruce Wayne. Wayne Enterprises saw him around campus. Yeah. And he still says, Bruce Wayne, in that very pleasant way. And that's like a subtle kind of humble brag thing. Like that's what Tom Cruise does. You know, when Tom Cruise meets somebody, he's like, I'm Tom, by the way, you know, and does a big like super power.
Does he do that for real? Because I could see it being a legit thing.
He does. Yeah. Tom Cruise does that. Like it's a known thing. Yeah. Anybody who has had an encounter with him. And it's like, we both know that I'm so famous, you know who I am, but I'm going to play an act of being super humble, which is actually like a double reverse flip back power move. Yeah. You know?
Oh, that's amazing. You know, as Andrea drives away, she leaves the scene. Bruce cracks a smile. And as a character point, I actually quite like this because I think he likes that she did, you know, make herself be in charge. That, you know, she showed herself to be in control. I don't think he is used to that. This Bruce Wayne, because we saw his interactions with women earlier.
Yeah. I mean, to compare her to other, the women were all like, Brucie, when are you gonna get married? Yeah, and now to her to be like, you know, I don't. Mother was that like, and just really, you know that she is into him, but she is quite willing to drive off and be like, I'm just leaving it there. See what happens. And then when she does come afterwards, she's like, you know, I thought you would call. I figured you must be dead or something. Like she's radiating such confidence on herself. She's got such an aloofness and a kind of wit and a should I ask Rob though, because obviously, as you mentioned there, Dana Delaney went on to play Lois Lane off the strength of this. You hear it in interviews saying, you know, like they asked her to audition and she was just so excited because she's just like, the idea of me getting to sit down and even say on an audition tape, you know, Dana Delaney reading for Lois Lane, and then now she's like the longest serving Lois Lane actress. Like she did it from 94 to 2013, I think is the last time she did. I don't know if she's officially retired or if she's just like, they haven't asked me back yet. But what do you make of her? Because you obviously host the Superman show.
Yeah.
So what do you make of her performance as Lois Lane? And what would you say is like, do you notice any differences between Andrea, who's quite, you know, ballsy and quite confident and witty and, you know, very, very confident, and then that's all those characteristics can be applied also to Lois Lane as well. But, you know, I think Dana Delaney herself has said like, no, there are differences between the characters and stuff. So
there's definitely differences. I feel like, you know, she was great as Lois Lane. I don't know if they really added many dimensions to her character in that series. I think they kind of underserved Lois a lot. I liked that they did the whole army brat thing, which they didn't do in any prior version of Superman. But yeah, nothing really comes to mind. I thought she was very, very strong, but I don't think she was quite as nuanced or as three-dimensional as Andrea Beaumont was in this. I think this was her final stroll in the DCAU, but she definitely was very, very strong as Lois, and I think you know, she stood out in the cast of that show as being one of the better voice actors. I think her and Clancy Brown are probably the two highlights of the Superman show. I really like Tim Daly, but I just think the characterization of Superman in that cartoon is very kind of flat. They don't really do anything very interesting with them. The way they did with Batman in this, or Superman in maybe the movies or the Lois and Clark show that I love. But no, I think she's very strong. My favorite thing about Dana Delaney playing Lois Lane is she later pops up on Desperate Housewives, which Terry Hatcher was also in. And there's scenes where they're both talking together, and you're like, "Oh my god, it's like into the Lois verse." It's amazing.
Yeah. Except I do have the quote from her here saying about the differences she perceives between the two characters is that like Andrea is obviously her first act. Like many of the people involved with this, this was their first foray into animation. Like Kevin Conroy hadn't done voice over acting before playing Batman and stuff like that. And she just noted that, like, yeah, they wanted it, playing Andrea, to be very real. And she said that was their direction. They didn't want any comic book acting. They wanted it very real, very human. And that's pretty much what I did. I approached it like I would do any movie. There's no difference in that character. And that character was very complex and very secretive, but also tragic and beautiful. It's not just a great tragic love story. But Lois was another thing. Lois was snappy and fast talking, and she's in charge, and it's kind of like a yin and yang. And it was fun to be able to play both those things. And I was like, is there that much of a difference, though?
I wouldn't have thought so either. Yeah, I think they are definitely very comparable. And I think this is the more nuanced of the two, yeah. Just on the topic of only, like, there's no comic book dialogue. There's a bit much later in this, and it's the only line delivery that Dana Delaney has where I think, ooh, that wasn't great. There's a bit where she's talking to Bruce and she's like, I need to face my father, to find him, to stop him. And I'm just like, that's a different movie, guys. What are we talking about?
In that scene's defense, though, she's 100% play acting in that moment, though. Because she is, it's none of that's genuine. It's all like, I have to make him believe that my father is doing this and stuff. And,
oh, that's true, actually. Yeah,
I have to make him believe, so I'll act badly.
Yeah. That's my defense of Dean Cain as Superman, by the way. He's acting badly.
Nothing he does as Superman is bad.
Yeah. Also, I should ask, though, who is this is getting way off topic now, but, like, who is everybody's Lois Lane, then? Because I would have assumed a lot of people would be like, oh, no, it's Dana Delaney. That's who...
Amy Adams. Nobody did it like Amy Adams. I mean, she just... maybe not.
Niall, I think you know who mine is.
Well, I assume most 90s people will still be Terry Hatcher the whole way. I guess, so... Yeah.
I don't think that's just a 90s thing. I think she's the best at the role.
I also think that, yeah. You won't hear it said very often, though. I think a lot of people really like Erica Durance in Smallville. And
I remember very much defending, because I remember no one really likes... People look back at Smallville now, those were like, oh, yeah, I love that show. It's like, everyone hated it when it was on.
Oh, yeah, it was reviled, right?
Yeah. It was absolute trash. But I remember watching episodes, and when she showed up, and like, oh, Lois Lane's in it, and then been like, well, she's really, really good at this part, though. Like, they've heard her. Like, she's actually, like, an ideal Lois Lane. But
there was an interesting tweet, and we'll get away from Superman in a sec. There was a tweet a while ago where it was, like, pictures of Superman and Lois from Superman Returns and Amy Adams and Henry Cavill from the newer movies. And they were like, every time they take a picture of Superman with the actress playing Lois Lane, they never have any chemistry. And I'm like, or no, that you can never be convinced that they're actually in love. And I was like, yeah, that's because the newer ones never have any chemistry, whereas the older ones always did. Like Terry Hatcher and Dean Cain, or Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve, and if you look at them together, you're like, oh my god, they're so in love, you know?
Yeah.
But in the minute, his smile we talked about is interrupted by terrible weather. As we then cut to the big hat men's clothiers.
I'm noting this too. Like, I'm choosing to 100% believe in my headcanon that Bruce's parents actually are very demanding, and like, because when he's over begging at the grave later, they're probably thunder and lightning pissing down on him and stuff. And it's the one time he allows himself to smile. It's just like, don't you do it. Don't you think about it, kids. The thunder rumble. It's like, do you remember you made a vow and you've kept it so far, asshole? Get back to misery. Come on.
I really like the idea that we always hear Batman say, oh, criminals are a superstitious, cowardly lot. And in this film, they kind of suggest that actually he's really superstitious as well, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And he believes in like prophetic imagery and stuff. I kind of like that.
Well, you know.
What about that transition though, guys? I mean, like, if you're... I understand if you're shooting a movie on film and you're trying to line up a shot so that when you cut from one moon to the other, they'll match. But like, when you are animating it, you have total control over the exact position of the moon in the shot, and they don't quite match. Like, it's like off by a good noticeable bit. I'm like, why?
Why doesn't it just come back down and we're in the new scene?
Yeah.
No, but it should be completely seamless, and it's like the buildings around the moon should change. It's like, guys, it's animation. You can do anything you want.
But you literally have you're coming from a cartoon where you turn the Warner Brothers shield into a blimp, and then you pan down. You did it already.
Unless they are deliberately wanting it to feel like a live action movie.
I think that might be it. That was the only thing I could think of, is like, let's make it a little bit janky enough to give it a more cinematic feel. Of course, nowadays with digital photography and post-production and everything, every such transition is completely perfect, like maybe too perfect nowadays. You know?
Oh, definitely too perfect. They've ruined all the kind of the grit. You know. So it's just such an odd choice. It's just like,
that's a really cool observation. What I was going to suggest that maybe it's because didn't they draw all this on black paper? So they couldn't they couldn't trace it because it was on a black page. So maybe they just had to draw it on an entirely new piece of paper.
It's like, it's never let us down so far. Oh, Christ.
Here's a question from a first-time viewer of this. So is Bruce Batman at this point?
No.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense, because what we see, he swings through the skies like Spider-Man, and he turns up to fight crime in a very strange outfit. Not what I was expecting. I assumed, he's got to be Batman already, and he was so sidetracked with Andrea, maybe he just forgot to change.
I forgot my suit, all right.
Yeah. Because that was all I could think. Either he's not Batman or he forgot. That's it. There's nothing else it could be.
Maybe as well as Joel Schumacher. He watched this movie. He's like, that's what happened there. I'll reference that in my movie.
What we need here are some neon-faced gangs.
Every movie needs that.
I love those guys. Sorry, I'm not making fun of Joel Schumacher. I love him.
No.
That's one thing, though, that's like, it's a note up, but like, when's an appropriate time to bring this up? I guess Batman technically isn't on screen here at the minute, but we do see Bruce in a prototype, kind of like early days suit. We get to talk about more when he has it properly on, I guess, next minute. But the thing is, like, my interpretation when I was a kid was that, Batman is wearing a black cowl, but the blue they put in is to highlight it so you can see in the animation and stuff where it is. But then also at certain times when the light shines on him, it just shines blue. Like, it's like, no, he's wearing a blue outfit. And then you see in this, he's wearing a black jacket, and then it's like, no, it's just black. Like, it's just lighter shading of black. But so like, that always makes me think then, like, so Arthur Reeves has got like black hair with a blue streak in it. Are we to interpret that he just has blue hair? Or like the Joker has black hair with a green streak in it, and then the light shines on him, so wait, it's straight green hair. So is Arthur Reeves like a blue-haired councilman who's just like, this is just this is prototype Joel Schumacher's Gotham or something?
But everyone knows that blue means the night in movies in general. Not just in animation, but in just movies. If you want to make a scene happen at night, but you want to be able to see what's going on, blue light.
Blue every time.
Yeah.
That makes me laugh in so many movies when they're like laying in bed together. And
you can clearly see everything.
You can see everything. You'd never sleep.
Yeah. And I could see everything. It is too late.
It was too late. Too late.
I was going to say, Niall, I think there's a couple of things at play there. I think the implication I read was that it's supposed to be leather, and it's supposed to convey the way light shines on leather, I think. But then with the blue hair, I think when you have black hair, again, that sometimes when the light hit, I don't know if that's quite right, but I know that certain black hair dye, when you put it in your hair first, it is blue. And the hair goes by anyway. I don't know, but that's what I.
But I think it's just to show that, like, if you need two shades of black, you go blue with one of them to show that you can contrast it and show a shine and like, because blue is like, it codes for nighttime, it codes for darkness. Because black doesn't read. Black is just nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the thing is, what we're saying about it being leather, Rob. It's like, I guess you could, because then, literally on leather wings. Been the first.
Leather wings, yeah.
But then, is he not wearing a leather jacket in this scene? Is like, I assume it's like, that's a leather jacket he's got on. But maybe it's like a
different
canvas jacket or something?
Different shades of leather. Because obviously in the new Batman Adventures, then he has black, but the shine in it is grey instead of blue. I don't know.
Yeah. I know some people have said, like, they made it blue in the comics because apparently ninjas actually people assumed they would have been out in black, but they were actually out in blue because it actually blended in with the night sky more and stuff.
We talked about this on our other show, Miami Minutes.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah. Ninja 3, the Domination fans know that real ninjas wear kind of a khaki green.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes even white, we discovered.
Yeah. The Miami Connection, they would never steer you wrong. That's obviously 100%. Why would YK Kim lie to us? He's a grandmaster.
I researched that and it was true, if you remember.
But yeah. We'll wait for more Batman costume, talk when he's actually in costume on screen, I guess. But yeah. So we do get Spider Bruce, I guess. Yeah, kind of like flinging himself across the rooftops here. I do know. Oh, actually, two things I should know. Actually, no, I'll go back one at the end because I don't want it to back. While we've transitioned into the next part, I'll go back to my other note at the end of the minute. The in the novelization, they add in a bit more detail in that. So he goes past the big hat men's clothiers or clothier, clothier.
Clothiers. It's a great word. We need to use it more often in conversation.
Which I'm getting. You can't help but be like. So it's like a Mad Hatter nod. It's like a little foreshadowing and something. Because then in the novelization, he also goes past like the Everbloom's floral shop, and then is atop the clown face of Lucky Chuckles arcade.
Oh, come on!
And then I was like, you might as well have him go past the cat food and whip maker factory. It's like a Rimini's Riddle
Emporium.
The Rimini Riddle Emporium, or Lazarus bathtubs, or some crap like that.
Baby doll toy store.
Yeah. But from that though, it's like, it would be odd to throw in all the villains to throw in the Mad Hatter, but I guess it's like a good little it's simple and it pops out of you straight away.
It's not too on the nose, that one.
Yeah. Although in the animated series, Jervis Tesh never worked in I went to look back into it. I was like, did he ever work in a clothes shop or something? And apparently, I thought it was quite a nice note that Paul Dini has said that canonically for him in the Batman Beyond timeline, because people ask him where the other villains ended up and stuff, and he's like, yeah, Jervis Tetch and Edward Nygma run a men's clothing store together, and are in a quote very happy personal relationship.
Oh,
pretty cool.
So they're getting it on.
I was thinking, I think he's alluding that they hooked up. It's like. And Mad Hatter and the Riddler, they're lying, stroking each other's hairs, asking, how is a raven like a writing desk to each other?
Could see it.
Very nice. And John Glover, who played the Riddler, is gay in real life, so tracks.
Of course, yeah.
It's all. I was gonna say everything's connected. That kind of doesn't count in this game. Well, it kind of does. We'll go with it. That's how everything's connected.
It was actually because it would explain why Jervis Tetch has got such a kind of frustrated, bad relationship with women throughout the whole thing too. It's obsessive about Alice, and us. It's like, well, maybe it's because he's thinking I should be with a woman, but I don't want to be. It's an internal conflict. And then he hooks up with Edward Nygma. Maybe they're running this big hat.
Oh, that's
plays
it.
himself later on. So I thought that was a nice one. But
to be honest, all I could think was Bruce arrives as the villains are stealing packages and they've tied up a security guard. And I'm just like, oh my God, a counterfeit jeans ring operating right out of my clothiers?
The thing is, though, so look, I was trying to figure out, are they robbing the clothing place? That's why they showed it to you. But then in the next shot, when they're talking to Skaz, he's outside the Five and Dime.
Yes. It's the
Sal's Five and Dime,
yeah.
I had to look up. I've heard it before, but I looked up what is a Five and Dime.
I also did, because for years I thought it was Five and Dine. I thought it was like a discount cafe or something.
You get a meal for cheap.
Oh, it's a place where you buy guitars in the summer of '69.
Yes.
It's a place where you work part-time doing something close to nothing.
Americans are probably making fun of us right now. You know what? We don't have these over here. Screw you.
I have to wonder, though, because it's such an old-fashioned kind of term. Would modern Americans, they probably have heard it in much as the way they've heard of a gin joint or something like that, but they might not know exactly what it is.
Well, I mean, maybe, but when I looked it up, you're probably the same now. It was basically exactly what I was imagining it was. Kind of I'm trying to think of an equivalent over here. Maybe like a Home Bargains.
Yeah,
It's like a pound shop.
Oh, like
Everything
Poundland
is
or
the
one of
same
those
price.
ones.
Poundland. Yeah, not a pawn shop, but like a place that has cheap, like lots of random goods.
Yeah, because I think it's everything you can buy in there for. This is why you would need to know American terminology. Is that it either costs 5 cents or a dime, which I guess is 10
Which
cents.
is 10 cents. Yeah.
And so it is basically. It makes it these criminals really aren't shooting for the stars at all. They're like for just robbing the pound shop. It's a bit like
They've made £5.60.
yeah. It's about the big hat, the big men's clothing top hat show up right next door.
Don't knock it. £5.60 could get you a lot of counterfeit jeans back then.
It's true. It's true.
A stick and kidney pie, a chip on the auto coach thing.
Oh my god! I
Well,
also
that's all true in this Gotham. It is probably like, yes, I'm getting my gyrocopter over to the
Exactly. Yeah.
I also saw that a popular 5 and dime when I looked them up. Right, get this now. It was called Woolworths.
Oh, yeah.
So
there you
America
go.
had a Woolworths. This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
mind-blowing to anyone over here. What the hell? Not the same thing as ours, but still.
No.
Oh, I thought it was because I always assumed it because I think in Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
Oh,
they
brother,
mentioned
stay out of the Woolworths. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when I was a kid, I remember hearing that. I was like, oh, it must just be like an American company. But I didn't. It's not the same thing then.
Ours wasn't a 5 and dime. Ours was a proper shop. It was like, they sold records and stuff. It wasn't a cheap.
I mean, they could sell records in the 5 and dime.
Yeah,
though.
but
Like,
everything was new and fancy. And I remember buying video games. I bought Parappa the Rapper in Woolworths for the PS1.
Well, I should actually note though, in the novelization,
I bought Ghostbusters from the Commodore 64.
There you go.
Hang on, Austin.
I
We
remember
don't have Woolworths in the Republic of Ireland, do we?
I went up north. I'm one of the few people from the Republic who would brave the crossing of the border.
Wow.
And you're one of the few who was allowed up north.
And I would say like, oh yeah, I went up to Enniskillen at the weekend, and like people, even like teachers, that would be saying to me, "Oh Jesus, I wouldn't go up there; you'd be bombed." It's like, hell, dude, there's like people living their lives up there and everything. It's like,
Well, we just heard so much about the pick and mix. It's like I gotta go and see this.
I've
Get a
started.
gummy
Pick and
snake
mix
and mini
was
eggs
good.
in the same package if you want.
I've
Nothing
started a
will
new
ever-
job in Northern Ireland now, and I was there yesterday, and I went to B&M, which I'm
B&M, yeah.
guessing that is kind of like what we're talking about here. It's like a 5 and dime type situation, and we do not have them here, and they are really cool. There's so much
They are.
weird stuff in there.
You know what? That's a great one to bring up. B&M. That is exactly what this kind of thing sounds like.
Mental coincidence. I'm currently looking at like action figures from the Batman animated series. I got one of the Riddler, and there's a thing of Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn
I
and
know
stuff
what
here.
you're going
And,
to say. Yeah.
and I bought them in B&M bargains.
Yeah.
And they're pristine. They're the ones you see that are like in Forbidden Planet for like 25 quid, and they were in B&M bargains for like a $5 or something. And there was the girls' night out pack which had like this Poison Ivy, Livewire, Harley, Batgirl, and someone else.
Supergirl, yeah.
Supergirl. And that was, you go on eBay, that's like £70 or something. And they sold it in B&M. They kept getting knocked down. It was loads of them there, and I bought it for like £7 or something.
Awesome.
It was like insane. It was like me and my brother will still go like, have you been to B&M? Have they got anything? I was like, no. It was like a fluke a couple of years ago where you could go in and you pick up like a replica of like Darwin Cook's Batman. Like that would just be there. I think the DC the Elseworlds series for like £4.
I'm guessing it's just like unsold stock just trickles into those shops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a TK Maxx or something. Yeah.
That's
But for
how
a
they
while
do
there,
it.
it was just like, yeah, if you're a Batman fan, it was just like, this is amazing. You just get the stuff there for nothing. It's nuts.
Right next to aisles of different flavored beans and like weird flavors of crisps that you'd never usually eat, and like Pop-Tarts and all this mad stuff. Yeah, great place.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this could all be for sale in the 5 and dime as well. I've never been there. Only I know about it was what I thought was 5 and dine, and then I know the Robert Holt movie come back to the 5 and dine when I used to call it Jimmy Dean with Cher and stuff. I was like, oh, that was set in a diner, right? And I was like,
Although, Bruce, he's watching these guys from such a high vantage point. I can't imagine he's actually seeing and taking in what they're doing. He's like, there's some kind of nefarious activity going on. I don't know. And then some guy walks through holding, I can't fathom what he's holding. It looks like 2 lamps. Like, I don't know, is it like hot stuff coming through? What's he holding? Is he Wilbur Hood with ice cream machines? What is he?
A bunch of live, laugh, love pictures, in frames.
They look like they might be vases or something, are they?
Yeah, maybe. It's odd, isn't it? It's very strange. Like, what are they worth money at the 5 and dime?
Well, the thing is, in the novelization, it specifies that they're stealing VCRs.
Oh my goodness!
Which means is this like a prototype Dominic Toretto?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing!
The best thing about Fast and the Furious that people forget is they started out as DVD player thieves.
Yes.
In my head, they started out as VHS thieves.
And they call back to that. Luke Evans calls back to that in Fast and Furious 6. He's like, "You've come a long way from stealing DVD players."
I was really hoping like the last scene of the last Fast and Furious is going to be like, Dom, have you heard of this new thing? Blu-ray. And it's just him arching his eyebrow and just cuts the credits.
Or like the villain in the final one, you know the way they keep calling back to stuff. They're like, "Oh, it's me, Dom Toretto, the author of all your pain. I owned the DVD player that you once stole, and it ruined my life."
Why not? Let's do it. Maybe they finally get arrested for that crime.
I think that's too. It's like people
it's time
already
to put
look
a pause on your activities. Sorry.
Yeah, I know people just look at that trailer and just like seeing Brie Larson. It's like she's friggin' Paul Walker's sister. That's gonna be the thing.
Probably.
Yes.
Yep.
Brian had a sister that maybe he mentioned before, but turns out she's a CIA agent and she's Brie Larson, and she can haul a jeep up a hill with her bare hands.
And maybe Vin Diesel's wife will die in the second act so that he can have sex with Brie Larson, and then she'll come back to life in the next one, so it's fine.
It's all fine. Nobody ever dies.
But will I ever see you again, Dominic? See you again, Dominic? Sure, baby. Next wife death.
Yeah.
Just like, waltzes out.
Next DVD heist.
Maybe that's what's happening in the back of this. Is like, a couple of guys getting lucky out there.
Well, we then get one crook on the walkie-talkie letting Skaz, whoever that is, we're going to find out, know that they're done shopping. So they're finished with their evil deeds. Whatever they're stealing, it's all ready to roll.
They're ready to deck out their living rooms and maybe watch Weekend at Bernie's 2 tonight, because we finally got the VCR, guys.
Jesus, I can't remember the last time I watched the second one of those.
Again, actually, this would be Christmas in '93. Definitely pirated Jurassic Park tapes.
Oh yeah, I had a pirated. I lived in Cyprus. Everything was pirated.
Yeah. But this would be like, it'd be like a tape with Jurassic Park and The Fugitive on at the same time. But you can't tell which film was which. There's so much like snow on the screen and static. You're just like, is Harrison Ford fighting a dinosaur? I can't really tell what's happening.
I could probably get someone in a lot of trouble for this, but my mother's best friend's husband was a guard, a policeman in the early 90s. And he was a detective, and they seized loads of pirate Disney videos. And we got loads of them. So I the first time seeing like Cinderella, Sword in the Stone, Sleeping Beauty, there were all these pirates that like the guards had seized and ended up in my house. It was great.
Oh, that's amazing. Holy crap.
The corruption running rife. Just thinking, oh my God, Batman's right, not to trust the cops.
Now, I might have brought this up on the show before, so edit it out if I have. I don't know. We do that many shows. But I'll never forget getting in Pakistan when I lived there. I got The Ring. And as it went to the credits, because it was a dodgy copy, they'd sort of clearly put it over some other DVD they used to have. So it was The Ring, and then the credits came up, and it was just, "Here come the men in black." What? It completely destroyed the atmosphere.
I love that you said, though, some other movie they were recording. It's like, yeah, what movie could that be? And I can't decipher.
Oh, it was the best. So in my mind, The Ring ends with the Men in Black theme.
Yeah. I mean, it could only improve it.
That's canon.
It's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
You're not sorry. Sorry means you won't do it again, Rob.
Please do it again. That's why we want you here.
But no, the only other note I have is that just to pop back briefly to Andrea, is that in the script and in the novelization, she's actually riding a motorbike instead of a car. So it's a bit like that's very, particularly from what we've seen in the Batman movies recently. It's like that instantly just brings Zoe Kravitz hopping on a bike to mind. Of course, Anne Hathaway back. Just forget about that. But
our Batgirl from our,
of course, yeah. But I have to say, I prefer the change to the roadster she's got though, because that's, I don't know, riding a motorbike.
I kind of get like a Audrey Hepburn, Roman Holiday, Vespa vibe off what you're describing though.
Oh yeah,
which could be kind of another throwback.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. I was just imagining it as like, friggin' Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper kind of thing, just revving, blowing smoke in Bruce's face as he's standing there and stuff. But yeah, so obviously a very conscious choice they made. Like, no, let's change it to a little zippy car. She's tearing around in too. Like, she really does have the kind of vibes. She doesn't care much for traffic laws or parking spaces and things like that. Because I guess she is like, she's daddy's little girl. She's kind of like Cher Horowitz. If Cher was like much, I don't know, had much more of an edge to her in a way. She'd be smarter than Cher, even though Cher is actually like quite intelligent, but just she's clueless. But Andrea is like clue-full, I guess. But yeah, that's all the notes I got for this minute. Anyone else have anything you want to throw in for minute 11?
The only other thing I was thinking was just the bit where he's swinging on the rope. It just doesn't look great. It looks like he's kind of flying, but is holding a rope, which is a problem with like rope physics in a lot of cartoons. They just never really nailed it. Like, at least though, the rope looks like it's tethered to something. Like, there's a lot of sort of Spider-Man stuff where it looks like he's just swinging from thin air. That was the only other thing that stood out to me.
Yeah.
All noted out. So we will then depart once more into the dark, dark night. Join us again on Friday when we'll be back with a minute 12 of the ever wonderful, ever exciting Bat Minute of the Phantasm.
Next time, Bam Man begins. Skaz's shopping squad scramble to take flight, and their escape is stalled by a nascent knight. But as authoritative oration alone fails to fling fear into the felonious fleet, can a flurry of fists and feet aid our ferocious freshman supermarket sweep? Check out a budding bat-kicking butt in the bagging area come Friday, folks. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
Must top, tier fit,